Captain Cool couldn't keep his cool. How can we expect our politicians to? Good evening. Hello and welcome to India Development Debate. I'm Nayantara Rai in New Delhi. Electoral bonds were introduced by the Narendra Modi government as an alternative to cash donations to political parties. The idea was to suck out black money. So the electoral bonds were designed like a bearer instrument, a promissory note. It would work like a bank note payable to a bearer on demand and free of interest. It was said that this bond could be purchased by any citizen of India or anybody incorporated in India, but the rider was there had to be a KYC compliant account. The bonds were to be issued in multiples of 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakh and 1 crore and available at specified branches of the SBI. Sounds very good on paper, but it turned out to be a political hot potato. Even the Election Commission wasn't fully on board, and ultimately a petition was filed by the Association of Democratic Reforms. Today, in an interim order, the Supreme Court has asked all political parties contesting elections to divulge details of funds they have received through electoral bonds to the Election Commission in a sealed cover, latest by May 30th. The Apex Court has also directed the Finance Ministry to reduce the window of purchases of electoral bonds from 10 days to just 5. That should be in the April to May period while the Lok Sabha elections are being held. Which in a nutshell pretty much means with the next hearing on 30th of May that electoral bonds have been ruled out for Battle 2019. What happens to all those donors that have subscribed to the bonds? Is bonds the way India must go? How should India suck out black money from political funding? If you look at the last 2 days, nearly 5,000 crore rupees has been recovered and seized in the form of cash, jewelry and liquor. Let's get down to this on Friday's edition of India Development Debate, and discussing with me through the next 30 minutes this very topic will be Hitesh Jain, the spokesperson for the Bharatiya Janata Party, Mohammad Khan, from the spokesperson for the Congress Party. We'll also get you one of the petitioners, Jagdeep Chokar, the founder at ADR. We'll also get you a voice who has worked with the Election Commission, N. Gopalaswamy, the former CEC, who will be joining us on the phone line all the way from Chennai. I'm going to go across first to the petitioner, Mr. Chokar. You know, this was an instrument that had been designed to suck out black money. I think if there can be one verdict that we can all unanimously reach on India Development Debate, it is the existence of black money in political funding. So having said that, why is it that your organization, the petitioner, is so against the electoral bonds? Why are you calling for it to be scrapped? How can you say that cash donations is indeed better? Your counsel, Prashant Bhushan, in Supreme Court has called the instrument, the electoral bonds, as retrograde and as a kickback. How is cash not a kickback?
Well, first of all, let me just mention that not only our counsel, Prashant Bhushan, but even the Election Commission has called this a retrograde step. But the question is, we are obviously not against removing black money from the electoral and political funding. We are against black money in every way, shape or form. But the problem is that the electoral bond is supposedly to remove black money from the electoral and political process, but it is not designed to do that. As a matter of fact, if you see, you just said that about 5,000 crores of rupees have been seized during the current election. Now during the election, the electoral bonds are also available, and they have been available for 2 years. So if electoral bonds were effective in removing black money, then it stands to reason that these 5,000 crores would not have been seized. So we have immediate available evidence that electoral bonds are not...
That's because you went to court and you tried to derail the process.
Electoral bonds are not... No,
that's
just a minute.
Also because we had you going to court, the Supreme Court intervened.
No, the Supreme Court has intervened today. We had gone to court 2 years ago, right after the scheme was introduced. And we were not expecting that this would languish in the waiting line for 2.5 years. we thought it would be heard and decided within the same year.
Really,
So
Mr.
to
Chokar,
say
you're not
that we
familiar with the
tried to
judicial
make
system of India? Are you trying to tell me? Are you trying to tell me you're not familiar with the judicial system of India? You actually thought a case would be resolved before 2 years. I'm going to come back to you, but let's go to Mr. Gopalaswamy. You know, we've just heard the petitioner saying it's not just ADR, but even the Election Commission is not on board with the electoral bond scheme. In court, you have argued that while you're not against the instrument per se, the voters must have a right to know who is funding the political parties when they cast their vote. Is that the right way, the right argument that the Election Commission should have taken in your wisdom, Mr. Gopalaswamy? And should that really be the only problem with the electoral bond scheme?
I think you are concentrating on some issue which came up, while argument. But the Election Commission's affidavit covers many issues there. And this is something orally mentioned by the government advocates, not by the Election Commission's advocate. And Election Commission has come out with a lot of issues relating to the bonds. While the bonds are okay, but a company donation, allowing companies to donate without any ceiling, then so on and so forth. Quite a few points they have brought out. So those issues are something which the Election Commission has pointed out. Now, speaking for myself, I would say that, Mr. Chokar raised an issue why 5,000 crores have been found in cash. One could look at it the other way also. That is, 5,000 crores in cash has been found. But if you had possibly not had the bonds, it would have been 6,200 crores or 6,700 crores. Okay. So that is also one way of looking at it. The bonds by itself are okay. You see, one thing is certain. In this country, cash is king. Okay, and until that changes in some manner or other, whether by companies on their own trying to improve things or the political process making some changes, both in the law as well as in their own behavior, cash will be king. And only part of it is, this money which has been found out from various places in the last, after the election started. In fact, one of the statistics says that Tamil Nadu leads. And I call from Tamil Nadu, so I take some pride on that. Tamil Nadu leads with 171 crores. This is a couple of days older information. And AP is distant behind us, 118. And the rest of them are also ran kind of category. Now, this money has nothing to do with the bond, nothing to do with the parties. This is the prize you extract by sitting in the office. That is the money which is coming out. Now, this is the money investment fund, which is the individual's investment fund into the election.
You're saying that this is legitimized. Are you saying, Mr. Gopalaswamy, that the electoral bonds could be used as a platform for legitimizing kickbacks, for legitimizing favors? Is that what you're basically saying in a nutshell?
Positive sides, but believe me, you make any changes in this, whether you scrap it or you don't scrap it, now the underhand payments will continue because so much of cash is generated in the system. That is something which we have not, two things we have not been able to successfully do. Stopping the generation of cash. Two, stopping the use of office.
Let me take that forward now to the Congress party, Mr. Gopalaswamy.
Use of your office.
Mr. Gopalaswamy, allow me to move on and also introduce... Okay. Let me go across the Congress party now. Mr. Gopalaswamy is saying cash is king. So in a nutshell, in one sentence, he's also said that demonetization has flopped. But Mohammed, let's not talk so much about that. Let's not let the debate, let it be about electoral bonds. Having said that, would you concede that the Congress didn't seize this opportunity about electoral bonds? We don't hear that in your campaign so much. Even though you only got 5% of the share of the total issuances that have come out, which could perhaps be one of the biggest grievances that you have against electoral bond scheme. Having said that, but your party is also... How can it expect donations when it has been saying "Soot boot ki sarkar," calling every corporate house a chore? How are you supposed to get donations? legitimate donations?
Well, donations on, you asking me how are we supposed to get donations, and I suppose the right answer is on the strength of our work, on the strength of our message, and on the strength of the idea that we stand for a united India. But Nayantara ji, you said that we haven't exactly raised the issue.
But Mohammed, that's the problem. You didn't get it. You didn't get it. But Mohammed, that's exactly the problem, that you didn't get it, and that's what Mr. Chokar, the petitioner, says. It swings in the way of the ruling party. It didn't come to the Congress, but it didn't come to the Congress because the suit boots didn't want to give it to you.
No, that's, if you turn that argument on its head, Nayantara ji, then you're saying that you have to kowtow to and be submissive to the suit boot ki interest to get donations, and we would never do that. That's not the Congress. That may be the BJP way, and they've gotten 95% of all political donations because of it, but that's not the Congress way. But let me come back to the debate at hand, Nayantara ji, and if you'll allow me 30 seconds. I disagree with you that the Congress has not raised this issue. On January 3rd, 2018, shortly after the electoral bond scheme was announced, Nayantara ji, Randeep Singh Surjewala, our lead spokesperson, held a press conference. He was the first person from across the political spectrum to say this is a regressive step. It will bring more opacity into our political system. It flies in the face of transparency. From that point of time onwards, on every single debate, and I can personally attest to this, we have spoken loudly against electoral bonds. Number two, I can also tell you that in our manifesto that was recently released, one of the key promises that we put forth is that we will repeal the scheme. If we will repeal the scheme when we are elected to power. I can think of no stronger way we can put forth our opposition to this. The second thing, Nayantara ji, I want to say to you is this, and this perhaps will answer the question of why a certain party is getting more funds. Electoral bonds are an institutionalized system of corruption. That is our argument. The party in power doesn't want you to know, as expressed by the Attorney General, who is donating to them. They say it's none of their business. And that's ironic, Nayantara ji, because 2 years ago, this government stood up and argued against its citizens' fundamental right to privacy. Now it's saying it has a fundamental right to privacy when it comes to its own funding. Now, Nayantara ji, imagine a scenario, and I'll conclude on this note. Imagine a hypothetical scenario. किसी को बीजेपी से अपना काम करवाना है इनकी सरकार से. And that person goes and he's told that to get this work done, you buy electoral bonds worth this much and you deposit them. The work gets done, complete anonymity, plus you get a tax rebate on what is essentially a bribe. That explains why 250 crores or thereabouts.
Mohammed, if they don't like the government, if they don't like the government, they can also give more money to the opposition to make sure that the opposition beats the government during elections. They're empowered to do that.
बिल्कुल सही नयनतारा जी, बिल्कुल सही नयनतारा जी, and perhaps again I don't know how corporate donors think, but I would simply say this: you're faced with a totalitarian government. It didn't just bring in the electoral bond scheme, Nayantara ji. Perhaps if it had done only that, then we wouldn't be having this debate. It amended 2 laws. They amended the Companies Act so that earlier the limit that was there, that a company could only donate 7.5% of its 3-year profits, requiring thereby the company to have been an established and a running concern. That's gone. Now, any company can be created, money can be siphoned through and wound up. Second requirement, you as a donor were earlier required to keep details of who you're donating to.
So you're bringing up checks and balances that you have an issue with.
You don't have to do that. You still get the benefit. So I don't understand. Yeah, exactly. No, I have a complete problem with the entire electoral bond scheme.
Now you come in. Those, he's got the Congress has problems with the checks and balances that you have created. Okay, and would you concede, Hitesh Jain, that perhaps this has been a huge botch up by your government in the court? The finance minister said when he presented electoral bonds for the first time ever in his budget speech that the idea is to keep it anonymous so that the political parties don't know who is giving them the funds, and it will work in that sense. Your Attorney General says in court, while admitting that 44% of Lok Sabha elections are funded with black money, that the voters don't need to know who's funding the political parties. That was never the idea of the government when they talked about electoral bonds. Has this been a huge botch up in the courts?
Well, frankly speaking, should I laugh or cry at the response of the Congress party? The problem is on this subject, whether it is Congress party, whether it is Prashant Bhushan or whether it is NGO, there is a certain tendency to exaggerate and misrepresent. Now, let me make my friend Mr. Mohammad Khan aware of certain basic facts which he should know. Now, I am talking about the 2010 reform in the political funding introduced by the Congress party when Mr. Pranab Mukherjee was the finance minister. He should know this was an amendment of 2010 and which is still continuing and which is not under challenge, and Congress also does not dispute the amendment. Now, the amendment is such: a individual donor or any person who is a donor can make a donation to the registered political trust, and then that registered political trust will make the donation to the political party. In this, the only identity that you will know is about the registered political trust. The identity of the donor is completely masked, and the link between the donor and the political party is snapped. Now, this is a very good law. This is introduced by the Congress government only on the question of on the principle on the masking of identity. Now, you look at the electoral bond. What is different? It is the same thing. You purchase the bond from the banks, the authorities will definitely know because the bonds come after the KYC. So, frankly speaking, what we have done is just continued and made their reform or amendment in a very simplified manner, and we have allowed the donations to come in a legitimate form in the white money instead of black money. So, frankly speaking, I don't know why Congress is complaining when it was their own amendment which we have just reformed it better. So, therefore, I was laughing. I mean, should I laugh or cry at the response of the Congress party? Now, let us look at the response nowadays.
But the four amendments had also been carried out by this government to make electoral bonds a reality. So you may go back and look at some exemptions in the Companies Act and bring that up. But Ritesh, the amendments were carried out by your government. Jagdeep Chokar, if I can come back to you, the petitioner. I once again want to ask you, is your main problem that there are not enough checks and balances? Do you have a problem with saying that we don't know, for example, the source of the money, if it's coming in from overseas, the anonymity that is attached to it? Is that what it is? And in case those checks and balances are addressed, would you then be okay with electoral bonds? Would you say that this is the right way to go, to legalize the anonymity?
You see, in the budget speech, the finance minister had a section called Transparency of Electoral and Political Financing. That section had 2 paragraphs. In one, it said for 70 years there has been a problem, nobody has been able to solve it, we are going to solve it. The second paragraph said that 4 laws will be amended and therefore problem of black money will disappear. In the same afternoon, in a media interaction, the finance minister said the electoral bonds will be in the nature of a bearer bond. The identity of the donor will be anonymous. Now, I fail to understand how do anonymity and transparency go together. If we have anonymity, then we cannot claim that there is transparency, which was the title of the 2 paragraphs of the finance minister's budget. And repeatedly it has been said that identity of the donor has to be kept anonymous because other political parties will harass the donor if they come to know whom has the donor donated to. There is a right to information written response by the election commission.
Logical. Isn't that logical? But Mr. Chokar, isn't that logical? Supposing I'm in power. Supposing I am in power, I get a certain amount of donation, I lose, and the other party that comes into power knows that, hey, so and so industrialist paid this political party so much, but now I'm in power. How can I not get the same amount? It's logical. It has happened in the past.
If you were to listen to me, then you will know that the election commission has said in a written response that there has been no such complaint in the last 4 years. First of all, there is data to show there has been no complaint. Secondly, who does the harassment? The political party in power, whether it is political party A or political party B or political party C.
Mr. Gopalaswamy, he's made a very pertinent point there. Mr. Chokar has made a very pertinent point that there have been no complaints in the last 4 years. I want to ask you something else. If 44% of the general election is funded by black money, who is going to come to the election commission and say so-and-so political party got more black money than me? Is it even possible?
You allow me to speak, okay? Is that okay? I have something else to point out.
Yes, please carry on.
Whether irrespective of which political party wants transparency or not, the moment you make it transparent, we will go back to cash. Because no donor is willing to give in his name, he will not. This is the reality. Because in the court, in the submission by the Election Commission, it has said that 20,000 below has been enormous. Most of the money, most of the money has come in less than 20,000. Do you think all political parties told the truth? No. So the moment you say that there is going to be transparency and therefore everybody's donor's name will be given, excellent. It will be very good on paper, but no donor will come and give it. They will all go back to cash. So it is not one bond or this or that, unless there is a systemic improvement all along. Plus, the political parties sit together. You see, on the issue of whether bond or cash, political parties are the same. They will all try to get the money, but without revealing the source or without getting the donor to reveal his name. So, in that, all political parties are together. None is an exception. And unless all the political parties can get together and pass a law where things will be open and transparent, we will keep on debating it. We will be no wiser for that.
Okay, so that is what you are saying should be the way forward. Mohammed Khan, your manifesto has said that you're going to repeal the electoral bonds. But, that does give a perception that is the Congress batting for black money. Do you have an alternative in mind? Your manifesto doesn't say, okay, we'll repeal this, but this is how we will suck out the black money. That has not been addressed.
Well, ma'am, the first thing we'll do is we'll reinstitute the safeguards that existed so that shell companies are not allowed to become vehicles to transfer black money. The second thing we'll do is we'll take away the anonymity of donors as it existed earlier. We'll say that if you are donating to a political party, then you should be proud of the fact, and any other institutional measures that need to be taken will also be examined. You must remember, ma'am, over 70 years of our democracy's existence, our election laws have essentially moved forward. Things have become, by and large, more transparent. The RTI was an act that the Congress party introduced, and it was argued that it was an abdication of sovereignty, but we believed it was a necessary abdication of sovereignty. Similarly, the Land Acquisition Act was an abdication of eminent domain sovereignty, and that was again felt to be the interest of the general public. So I'm certain that when our government does come to power, we will take these steps forward. But the second thing I want to say is to Mr. Hitesh Jain, who himself is a very eminent lawyer, that Mr. Jain, these people who have donated to you so proudly and in such vast sums, these are patriots, these are nationalists by your definition. Why are you embarrassed? I give you a challenge on Nayantara's show that please go ahead and declare every single person who's donated to the Congress. The SBI is under your control ostensibly, so ask them to declare. We have nothing to hide. But in doing so, also declare who all have donated for you.
Hitesh, I'll give you the final. Hitesh, because you're running out of time. Hitesh, because you're running out of time and because Mohammed has tried to corner you and thrown you a challenge, I'm going to give you the last word and the final comment.
Well, frankly speaking, the problem is between the track record and the tape record. Congress tape record is different and the track record is different. They propose what they say in the manifesto, but the amendment is introduced by themselves, where they themselves want to mask the identity of the donor. The only other option for against the electoral bond, as Mr. Gopalaswamy in his wisdom and experience rightly said, is going to be a black money. So country has to make a choice whether you want a legitimate political funding and a political reform, or whether you want to walk on the path of black money, which Congress has. That is the track record of the Congress, and the tape record may be different. So as I mentioned, we have to look at the track record and not the tape record.
Okay, track record, tape record. Okay, track record, tape record. You know what? On 12th of May or 13th of May, once the final phase is over, let's see how much cash is actually seized. Let's compare it with the amount of cash that was also seized in 2014. 2 days, 5,000 crore rupees in the last 48 hours. We're completely out of time. I'd like to thank each of my panelists for taking the time out this Friday evening for joining us for this 30-minute edition of India Development Debate. I know each four of you had a lot more to say. I'm sorry time wouldn't permit me to come back to you for more questions. But once again, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned to the India Development Debate. We're taking a break. On the other side, It's the jet crisis. Are you leaving on a jet plane? You should be worried. Come back in less than 2 minutes.